Big Ten, here come the Buckeyes in 2024. What's going on, everybody? It's Christian Ballard with Ballard Sports Media coming at you with an interview today. We got Jay Stevens, host of the Locked On Buckeyes podcast from the Locked On Podcast Network. How are we doing today?
Christian, I'm doing well, man. Locked on Podcast Network, they've been good to me. I appreciate them allowing me to host that show for quite a few years now, and I'm glad to be here with you today.
Absolutely. Let's not waste any more time. I got a couple things we want to tackle today. I'll kind of rapid fire through these questions, but I think the big thing that stands out to me is the past couple years for Ohio State. It's been interesting how the tables have turned in the Big Ten with Jim Harbaugh leaving for the Chargers now. He's off to the NFL. Why is this the year for Ohio State to possibly take over the Michigan rivalry again?
The players they have this year, man, they're too talented. A lot of them stayed to stick around for that game. A lot of them could have gone off to the NFL, but they said, hey, how about we do something we have not done before, win the Big Ten, beat Michigan, and win the national championship. When you have guys like Tua Malowau and Jack Sawyer and Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton up front, it's one of the best front fours you're going to find in the Big Ten on any team. Michigan's front four on defense is maybe one of the few that might be better than Ohio State's. But you got linebackers, you got a secondary that's one of the best in the country. Offensively, they're going to be hard to stop. More of a balanced attack this year, and I just think Ryan Day is really figuring things out. I still have my hesitation with Ryan Day, the coach, but I do think this year he's put this thing together to capitalize with the talent and beat Michigan, win the conference for the first time since 2020, and to win Ohio State's first national championship for the first time since 2014.
Absolutely. And you talk about the talent that Ohio State has. One of the key guys that stands out to me on offense is Emeka Ibuka, if I'm saying that correctly. I know it's kind of spelled a
It
little weird
is.
there,
It
but
is.
uh, how can he not only be the best for Ohio State, but possibly boost himself up to be one of the best receivers in all of college football this year? And then also, how does he help the other receivers on the team to step up? This is a program that's had Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson in recent years, and maybe it's fallen down a little bit, but how do they get back to having multiple top talented receivers that we could possibly hear in April?
Well, Christian, I don't think they really fell off for having multiple top 10 receivers. The issue was last year, Abuka got hurt. It would have been Marvin Harrison Jr., and if Abuka didn't get hurt, he may have gone to the NFL, where you had two guys that are receivers at Ohio State that are first-round talent, first-round picks. I do think, though, Abuka, if he just plays like he's supposed to, like we expect him to, he's one of the best receivers in the country right now already, and he can continue that trend throughout the season. He should be, by my thoughts, a future first-round pick. But you got Jeremiah Smith, who's a true freshman, and I know we don't get hype about true freshmen, but everybody I've talked to and the things that we have seen from him so far make people believe that Jeremiah Smith is the real deal. For Smith to be the real deal this year and then have Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis really get added to the mix, they're going to need Abuka's leadership. And you asked that question about his leadership. I've been harping about this all offseason, about Abuka, his leadership, and about how important it is for the offensive success, the receiver success, his success, the quarterback success. His leadership is going to be key. And I think his mindset, the way he prepares like a pro already, I do personally think that the other players around him, especially the receivers, they'll be ready and more prepared because they're watching Abuka do what he's doing and do it at a high level all game long.
For sure. This is Christian Ballard with Ballard Sports Media. We have Jay Stevens, host of the Locked On Buckeyes podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I love a lot of great podcasts out there from you guys. You look at the schedule for Ohio State. It's going to be a tough road, but they are going to be one of the favorites for the Big Ten. I look at two games that stand out, though, and it actually makes me scratch my head a little bit. What would you say? I'm going to throw two games at you, road games. I want you to tell me which one's the tougher challenge on the road, in your opinion. At Oregon, October 12th, or November 2nd at Penn State, where they have had some trouble. And even though they've come away with that game, Penn State's looking up right now.
I think the tougher game is the Oregon game easily. Oregon's probably going to have a better defense, should have a better offense. And I say probably have a better defense. I think Penn State's defense is going to be good this year. Probably better than it has been over the past few years. James Franklin, that operation that he's running over there in Happy Valley, I mean, that's a 10-2 team every year. No matter who the quarterback is, no matter what the running backs' names are, it's a 10-2 operation. Now, I do think Ohio State, when they go to Happy Valley, it's going to be one of the toughest places, one of the loudest places. They'll play all year. The issue is, though, I trust Dillon Gabriel for Oregon way more than I trust Drew Aller at Penn State. I think Drew Aller is fool's gold. I'm not buying the hype here. People saying, oh, it's a bounce back year. He hasn't shown me anything that makes me think he's going to be really, really good. Yeah, I understand the recruiting. I understand all of that. But I don't think Drew Aller is going to be all that amazing. Dillon Gabriel, some think, will be the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. That's how good of a quarterback and player he is. I do think the Oregon game is tougher. And that's one of those games, man, that's not a sneaky good game. That's one of those games in the summer that people like you and I, we circle that on our calendar and know, oh, October 12th, Ohio State's going to Oregon. We got to get our popcorn ready because that's going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you look at a lot of the teams in the Big Ten. I had mentioned Penn State, but you make a pretty good point in case like of Oregon on the schedule, Michigan late in the year. Penn State could be a challenge, obviously, but it's not the biggest thing since sliced bread on their schedule this year. But it is going to be fun to watch the road schedule for Ohio State. They have some really good home games as well. I want to talk a little bit about recruiting as well here. 3 5-stars. At least last time I checked, I counted 3 in the 2025 class at the moment. And you can correct me if I'm wrong there. But quarterback Tavian St. Clair, Naheem Offord is a corner. Devin Sanchez is a corner. Of those 3 recruits that I just named, who would you say could have the most immediate impact on the team if they were to start as a freshman? And then feel free to highlight any other recruits out there, whether they're 5-star or not, because I know you got guys like Zion Grady, Quincy Porter. There's a lot of great guys out there.
Man, that's a tough one, man, because you mentioned Sanchez, Offord, and Tavian St. Clair. If they had the opportunity to start as freshmen, my gut says Offord because he's just different. But then I think about Tavian St. Clair, he's different too. And then I don't really – they're 5-stars for a reason. Like the recruiting databases, I don't know when the first recruiting database was started. I don't know if it was Scout.com or ESPN, one of those about 20 years ago. There's a star rating system for a reason, and they don't just hand out 5 stars to just anybody. You got to prove it. You got to earn it. You got to go to these camps and make sure you're in front of the right people to move up these recruiting databases. My first thought is Offord, though, and that's not a shot at St. Clair because I think St. Clair is really, really, really good, and I think he's going to be a really good college football quarterback. This is me assuming he's going to transfer and his game's going to translate to the next level. Offord moves different. I rarely see a corner in high school that just shuts down everybody. Doesn't matter if it's a zone, cover 2, cover 3. Doesn't matter if it's man-to-man, press man, if you're all 5 or 6 yards. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't really see corners really do all that kind of stuff. But to me, when I watch Naeem Offord play, he is just a guy that I want on the field right away. The issue is, of course, that everybody does his body translate when he puts on the weight. Does he keep his quickness and his hips stay shifty and things like that? Like, that's to be determined. I see other recruits that Ohio State has in the 2025 recruiting class. The 2 guys I've been very, very, very high on, and they're running backs, and the Buckeyes might get a 3rd running back in this recruiting class. They are Bo Jackson, first name's Lamar, who's an Ohio kid, and then the other one's Isaiah West. I believe he's from Jersey. Those 2 guys are running backs, and you turn on the film. I think Isaiah West, last I checked, was a 3-star prospect. He plays like a high 4-star prospect. Isaiah West is a dog. Bo Jackson is a dog. I say Bo Jackson has getaway speed already, and he's 200-plus pounds. Those 2 guys are the 2 guys that I'm like, hey, I can't wait to see them play football in Columbus. Now, the weird thing about recruiting, I like them. They ain't signed on the dotted line yet. We haven't had the early National Signing Day. So I am a person, I say this now on purpose, it's possible these guys are on the recruiting class now and they don't sign because that's just the nature of the beast. Don't like it, but that's just how recruiting works in 2024.
For sure. And you mentioned some really good names there, especially in the running backs like Isaiah West. I have heard good things about him. He is, in my opinion, not getting enough credit for the
Yeah,
kind
you're
of
correct.
athlete that he is.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Bo Jackson. He's obviously going to be highlighted. I don't know if that's his name. I know he's not related to the former Auburn, stud,
Right.
but he there's a lot of different position groups that they have tackled in the 2025 class, running back being one of them, and they've been known in recent years and even this year. I mean, you look at recent years with I remember a guy by the name of Master Teague.
Mm-hmm.
There was J.K.
Dobbins.
Dobbins,
Yep. Yep.
and then obviously we know about Travion Henderson the past couple years. So they've been able to tackle that position group very well. And it seems like on the recruiting trail going forward with the running back position, it's going to be something to watch.
Oh, dude. Just, so you mentioned Henderson, and you kind of just opened the door for me to just walk right through and talk about Quinshon Judkins. They didn't recruit him in high
That's
school.
right. Yeah.
I call it recruiting in the portal. Quinshon Judkins coming to Ohio State, to me, is as big for the Buckeyes offense as the Buckeyes defense getting Caleb Downs. Now, Downs is a better player. He might be defensive player of the year in the Big Ten, All-American, all that kind of stuff. So, like, I'm not saying Judkins is the type of player caliber that Downs is, but Quinshon Judkins allows Ohio State's offense to be balanced. I think he should start over Henderson. I think Henderson's going to play a lot. I think he'll rack up yards. I think he might have 1,000 yards this year. But man, Quinshon Judkins is just so good. It's just so much fun to watch him play. And he's rocking that number 1 jersey, and you got to be a dude to wear number 1. You can't be just some scrub just rocking the number 1 jersey. You got to be a dude, and he is a dude on the field. Judkins, man, recruiting in the portal is important, and I hope Ryan Day continues this trend of getting high-quality players that fill needs at Ohio State via the transfer portal.
Oh, I think he absolutely will. Judkins is a stud. And obviously, they got, Keenan Nelson is a safety from South Carolina, Caleb Downs from Alabama. Don't forget that quarterback Julian Sayin came from Alabama
He
too.
did.
I know it's going to be Will Howard's show. They got Alabama center Seth McLaughlin. I know he caught a lot of heat because bad snap in the Rose Bowl against Michigan and everything like that. But I still think he's very well built to get better, to learn from mistakes and improve. I think a lot of these guys could. I mean, you're going to make mistakes and catch heat in football. You look at that transfer class, the pieces are there. And I guess my last question for you overall, what's the formula for a national championship? Like, why could it be this year for Ohio State? The pieces are there. The schedule's going to be tough. But they got to be one of the best 12 teams out there, and they can make their mark on college football this year.
They're in the Big Ten, and automatically, I do believe with the Big Ten, just the caliber of conference, they're going to get at least 3, maybe 4. So let's just say there's a scenario where Ohio State does not win the Big Ten Conference Championship game. I think they're still going to be in because they're too good. Like, this is not one of those years where everybody's healthy, and I think there's 2 letdowns or 3 letdowns that keep them out of the playoff. No, I think Ohio State is good enough. Even if they go 11-1 and miss the conference championship game, or go 11-2 and lose in the conference championship game, I still think Ohio State is going to make the playoff. You got a quarterback that's already proven to you that he can win big conference games. Now, it's never been in the playoff in Will Howard, and no quarterback that's at Ohio State has played in the playoff. So that's one thing to watch. Also, Ryan Day has former head coaches as coordinators at Ohio State. Let's not lose sight about that.
Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly's been a longtime head coach in college and in the NFL. Jim Knowles used to be a former head coach about 10 plus years ago, but he has that experience. That means something in those big games, because what do you know about Nick Saban? Kirby Smart does the same thing. They go out there, they get these coaches that used to be head coaches, but the expertise is on one side of the ball. He's like, hey, man, we know it didn't work out here. Come here for a year, prove yourself once again, go get you another head coaching job. I don't think Chip Kelly's leaving after a year, but I do think Chip Kelly is here. He's going to allow Ohio State's offense and Ryan Day to be more free. Georgia is the only team that I think right now has a legitimate shot to beat Ohio State in the playoff. That's one team I'm saying, look, if I got to pick Georgia or Ohio State right now, I'm picking Georgia. Now, the issue is Georgia's players might get kicked off the team because they're all getting arrested. One kid, I forget his name, got kicked off the team recently for his second arrest this offseason. No, second arrest since he's been at Georgia. But if their team still stays intact, I think Georgia could beat Ohio State. I think it will beat Ohio State. But I think Ohio State will beat almost everybody else they'll play this year.
Absolutely. Great schedule. I look at the only two slip-up games possibly. I mean, everything's at home pretty much. You got to go to Oregon. You got to go to Penn State. Michigan's at home, but I think with a new head coach at Michigan, not that Sharon Moore can't do anything good. I think he will do really, really good for Michigan. But I think this is the year for Ohio State to take over the game again. And if you do slip up, I think 2 losses, Oregon and Penn State on the road, is minimum. I expect, personally, from Ballard Sports Media, I expect big things for the Buckeyes, and I can't wait to watch them in the fall.
Man, it's going to be fun to watch them in the fall. The one thing I think with everything you just said about Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and Oregon, excuse me, I think they're going to go to Happy Valley and beat Penn State by 10-plus points. I don't think Penn State's going to be able to handle anything. Oh, trust me. I am not high on that. Like, I say Penn State, I'm not high. Penn State's going to be like a 10-2 team. They're not terrible. I think Ohio State's just 10-plus points better than Penn State. Don't lose sight on Michigan. Michigan's defense is still going to be one of the better defenses in the Big Ten and could be a top 10 defense in the country. So I do think that poses a threat to Ohio State. That last game of the year, emotions are going to be a little bit different. Haven't beaten Michigan since 2019. Didn't play the game in 2020. And there's a different level of excitement and anticipation for the Big Ten championship game this year. So that game alone, just all like the rivalry itself, then you add in all the different angles that amplify the game. That trip to Austin Stadium, Eugene, Oregon, where that stadium might seat 52,000 people, it is going to be one of the loudest stadiums Ohio State's going to play in. Now, granted, they're playing in the shoe. That's a home crowd, though. On the road games, Penn State in Austin Stadium, even though Beaver Stadium seats double the amount of fans that Austin Stadium does, Austin Stadium's going to be wild. And I think Dan Lanning has a formula that he believes is going to work to perfection to beat Ohio State on October 12th. I have not made my official prediction for that game yet, but I do think that Oregon game is going to be tough.
Absolutely. I am one to have complained about some of the changes this year. I thought it should have been 8 instead of 12. I don't like realignment. But as we inch closer and closer to the season every day, I get more excited as it approaches because of all the changes. And what's interesting is there can only be one champion, but I would be shocked if Ohio State's not one of the best 12 teams at the end of the year. Jay, we got to go. Great stuff. Let us know where we can find you. And I really love and appreciate you for coming on the show today.
Christian, I really enjoyed it. Guys, you can follow me on Twitter at jsteven07. Check out Locked on Buckeyes every Monday through Friday on YouTube or wherever you get your fine podcasts. We're covering Ohio State fall camp currently. Recruiting, that does not stop. There's no offseason to recruiting. We will hit that primarily once a week. But then all season long, 5 days a week, plus a live post-game show. Y'all want to stay up to date with Ohio State? Tap into Locked on Buckeyes.
Absolutely. And you guys know what to do here at Ballard Sports Media. Like and subscribe, share it out, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.